Hello guys and welcome to a very special Good Robottal video with me, your Robot Wars fanatic Harry.
And me, your BattleBots expert Charlie. And speaking of BattleBots, we have a returning guest today. Please welcome Mike Jeffries from Team Chaos Core.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Really glad to be here. We've got a fun little reveal for you today.
Indeed, and that's all we're going to say for now. So if you haven't seen, we have actually had Mike on the channel already. He did this fantastic story about his history of Near Chaos Corps, plus talking about a bit of Bombshell from BattleBots, which is a robot which came as a runner-up in BattleBots Season 2 of the ABC reboot. And I'll lead on to Charlie to talk about the news we've received recently about BattleBots.
Yeah, so actually within a few days after we uploaded the interview, it was announced that BattleBots returning on Discovery Channel. And since then, it has exploded. Teams left and right from all over the world coming in, expressing their intent of wanting to be in BattleBots, confirming their place in BattleBots. And so we have Mike here today to go over his plans for BattleBots, what he's got in store, and also his new Bombshell.
So first thing I can say is we are going to be there with a completely new Bombshell. If you watched Season 2 on ABC, you saw that there wasn't a lot of Good Robot left at the end of taping. So we knew right off the bat we had to build something pretty much from the ground up. And we started on that design within a few weeks of getting home from filming and recovering a bit, making sure everyone was, well rested and ready to start another potentially massive build. That led to us initially doing a very heavy redesign on the whole modular concept. So we worked on redesigning our lifter module to be effective enough that we'd be comfortable using it. We designed a new vertical module that would have the potential to swap out for multiple different disks and started looking at how we could upgrade the power in the system. We also completely revamped the drive platform to better protect our motors, because one issue we kept running into at BattleBots Season 2 on ABC was that our motors would get chunks taken out of the back of them because they were relatively exposed to the other robots. So we spent probably a couple of months going back and forth on the CAD design there, watching, waiting, seeing what was going to happen with the next season of BattleBots. And once it got clear to us that it wasn't likely coming back to ABC, we started looking at, all right, we know that BattleBots is working hard on getting back on the air. What's the likely situation going to be? And the conclusion we came to was it's going to be probably on a home that makes a little more sense for it, and it's probably going to be on a tight timeline. So we decided we had to have 2 complete designs ready to go before any announcements got made. We kept working on the modular platform and got that to the point where we were comfortable we could build it. In parallel to that, we started working on a new design based off one of our weapon modules, because we knew that if there was a very tight build timeline, we'd be able to execute that and show up with a robot that would be competitive and would live up to the reputation we'd built out of Season 2. And that was a tough decision for us, because with that modular design, that's something that a lot of people remembered. But we knew if it was a tight build, we wouldn't have the time to do it right. And with a modular platform like that, if you don't have enough time to do it right, it's going to be a disaster.
Yeah, no, I can understand that. I think that it's a shame because Bombshell, obviously, we all remember it as the Swiss Army knife bot from Season 2. So it's going to be a shame to not see all of those different modular weapons. But I assume they're coming back at some point in the future when we get, Season 4 of BattleBots.
I think if we get the opportunity, we'll definitely bring it back. Another thing I've been considering is actually stepping back after this build, and I've been lucky enough to build basically 2 dream robots. The original Bombshell and then the new one we're bringing out this time. And I think it's time for someone else on the team to get a shot to build their dream robot too, because it's not all about me. And the team we've got, the Chaos Core, is a fantastic team with a lot of really talented designers and builders. And I kind of want to see what they'll come up with.
I love that sort of ethos that you have of that, everyone is involved and everyone gets the right to be, the head honcho, gets to be the person who explores their dreams. It's not all just down to one person. So, if this is the last time we see Bombshell, hopefully you go out with a bang and we get to see something really exciting come from Near Chaos Corps in the future on BattleBots.
Yeah, my hope is coming out of this season, the new Bombshell will be in a decent enough state that we can keep it running for a few seasons. And then the new robot, whatever it's going to end up being called, will be built in parallel with maintaining and upgrading the existing Bombshell.
Okay, nice. So I like that plan there. I think it's going to be interesting to see like how they will both work in parallel, like seeing who out of the Chaos Core team, because I know you got a lot of talented people who've done stuff in smaller weight classes merging together, who will bring out a brand new robot to go alongside with Bombshell.
Yeah, and there's already been some development of a few concepts there that I'm not going to reveal today, but what I've been seeing coming out of some of the other people on the team, there's some really cool designs in the works.
That's fantastic. That's great to hear. And hopefully, one day we get to hear all about that. And I can't wait until then. But how about we talk about Bombshell of Season 3? So, Mike, first of all, what was your reaction to when you found out Season 3 of BattleBots was coming back? Like, how excited were you to begin work on Bombshell once more and, potentially see it on the TV screens again?
So for myself and the rest of the team, we were thrilled that they got a new deal. We were a bit nervous at the timeline, but we knew we had a plan that would make that work. So we were also very excited about the new home, because the Discovery Channel to us makes a lot of sense as a home for BattleBots. It's got a lot of synergy there. The Science Channel reruns they did of seasons 1 and 2 were fantastically done, and their social media presence and all that was great. And we thought with how they treated BattleBots in the past, this seems like the kind of home where they could be there, not just for a season or 2 seasons, but for a very long time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's important. When we found out that BattleBots was coming back, the press release that we got from the Science Channel seemed very positive, seemed very promising for the future of BattleBots. A show that has so much legacy and is just so memorable for being like one of the staples of robot combat. It's great to be seeing it being used in the way it should be used. I have great faith in the Science Channel, and I'm just so happy that we've got a new season coming, and especially because now we know that Bombshell is going to be there, and hopefully this time you could be taking the crown with you.
So what we're building is a new bot, or what we've built at this point is a new bot based around one of our weapon modules from last season. Some of the big things we were looking at doing was cranking the power way up. We had about 12 horsepower in the drivetrain last time. We're at about 18 horsepower now with the 48-volt amp flows. In the weapon setup last time, we had about 9 horsepower. We're bordering on 20 horsepower in the weapon setup this time.
Jesus.
Yes.
So we've gone from the 2 short amp flows spinning the vertical disc to a large brushless outrunner spinning our vertical disc.
Oh,
that's beautiful.
That is tasty. I am so pumped to see that thing in action.
So for those who are familiar with one of my older robots, Algos, there's a lot of family resemblance between it and the new Bombshell. It's one of those things where that design inspired the original vertical disc module in the first Bombshell. And then when we decided to build an entire robot around that concept, we borrowed a lot more of the design elements from Algos and brought it into what became Bombshell Mark II.
Fantastic. So, like, how powerful are we talking Bombshell being this time? Like, what, like compared to what it could do in season 2, like, what could it do now?
We calculated our vertical disc in season 2 was storing about 25 kilojoules at top speed. The new setup with the speed we're aiming for, our theoretical kinetic energy limit is about 40 kilojoules, so almost double the energy.
That's incredible. Wow. So, I mean, we're seeing, like, by taking out these modular weapons, that you've just put it all into this disc, and it is now, like, even more scary than it was before.
Yeah, we haven't actually cranked up the weight on the disc at all, but because we were going to a much more powerful weapon motor, we're spinning it a good deal faster. So we are brushing right up against the 250 mile an hour tip speed limit in the BattleBots rules with the new build.
That is crazy. I cannot wait to see this Bombshell. So moving on, should we start talking about the appearance of the new Bombshell? Because it looks beautiful. Like, we're showing some pictures now just of the new Bombshell, and it was just, I love just the body work to it. Like, how did you come up with that shape for the new Bombshell?
This is one of those things where a lot of my designs start in a notebook or a sketch pad, and I start just kind of playing around with, all right, I kind of like this overall layout, but I want to make it look a little different. And that whole design just slowly evolved from that sketch. Like, we didn't want to do a flat box. We wanted to have some 3D geometry to it. So that's why we've got the big swept back sides on the wedge. In the picture of the bot right before shipping, it doesn't have the wheel guards on it, but we've got some wheel guards that extend over to protect the wheels a little bit. And then the top armor's got the whole 3D texture going on with it as well. And there's not really anything that sticks up above there. We've got our power switch up fairly high just because we could, but that was mostly just to give it a little bit of a differentiation from every other wedged rectangular box out there.
It looks beautiful. It's such a lovely looking build. I love Bombshell in season 2, but this one looks like even more beautiful, may I say. Like, it looks fantastic, and it's great to see that you've taken things that went wrong in season 2 and you've tried to improve that in season 3.
So for us, it's mostly a refinement thing. We decided we wanted to switch to the rear wheel drive because with this kind of weapon setup, you don't really get a lot of benefit from wheels up front unless you're doing something that's got a lot of actuation on your front wedge to really get that ground scraping effect. And we didn't really want to have to deal with that again. One issue we saw is we had those vibration dampers that were basically shock mounts for all the different drive pods. And that gave us this really cool effect last time around where we had essentially a suspension built into the robot. But to do that on this, we'd have had to make the entire body a good bit bigger to fit that in. So we couldn't really do that without sacrificing a lot of armor. And that was one of those design decisions that led to the whole look and feel of it. And we decided to protect the wheels better to compensate for that.
I'm extremely excited to see how it looks. I mean, the shape of it is beautiful. I love just sort of how it takes the aesthetics of the vertical disc setup of Bombshell in Season 2 and amplifies it times 10. It's got a fantastic sort of leading wedge on the sides as well. I think it's going to be very easy to get underneath robots and toss them about. I remember there was like a comment you made in your previous interview that we did where you said that the disc was less for damage and more for control, I believe. Is that still the intention with this current setup?
Yeah, I think the disc is going to do a fair bit of damage, but the way it's integrated into the chassis, we've got that very shallow feeding wedge. And when the opponent comes up, the tooth, which now actually has a 10-degree rake angle instead of being flat, comes out perfectly perpendicular to the wedge surface. So it'll be able to get a really good bite and potentially throw the opponent. And with the speed of our drivetrain, we're about 3 miles an hour faster than last season. And all the extra power we've got in it, that should let me really control the fights and stay on top of the opponent.
Wow, that's impressive. Just the fact like you're able to calculate that a 10-degree angle would make it perpendicular and to create this sort of effect where you can basically create a disc that acts as a flipper where it just tosses a robot high into the air. I mean, we saw that last season with Poison Arrow. So with all these upgrades you're talking about, I can't wait to see how robots are going to fly when they come in contact with this monster of a machine.
Yeah, and last season we were pulling pretty decent chunks out of the other robot. With that rake angle, it's going to function a little bit more like a milling cutter while still transferring a lot of that blunt energy. So we should be pulling, on a good hit, a fairly wide chunk out of the opponent on the impact.
So moving on from there, are there any robots that you really want to be facing in Season 3, whether that be a new robot that we haven't seen a fight with yet, or is that a rematch that we had from Season 2 that you want to see happen again with the new Bombshell?
There's a couple of bots I really do want to fight. One is Yeti. That's more from the personal history Greg and I have. I think it'd be really cool to fight the guy that helped me get started in the sport on the biggest stage in the sport. That would just be amazing. At some point, I really want to fight Don Hudson. I think he's a fantastic driver, and I think we could put on an incredible match if that were to happen.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's two matches that I think me and Charlie both dream of, is a Bombshell versus Stinger, or whatever Hudson machine we get, and Bombshell versus Yeti. I mean, two fantastic driving fights there with a lot of skill in both of those robots. Would you like to be facing off against Tombstone again? How have you improved the Bombshell now to face off against a threat like Tombstone?
So it's hard to see in the photo, but we've got a even shallower wedge than last time around. So the disc is set further back, and that's going to give us a nice angled area that can potentially deflect horizontal bars really well. And with Tombstone, you see a lot of people just charge in as aggressive as possible, try to get to him before the bar's up to speed. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. My goal with this is going to be to deal with the energy in Tombstone and control the impacts, because if I can control what happens when the hit occurs, that gives me an advantage for the next couple of seconds while all that energy is being dissipated across the arena.
What would be your response if you went against a robot that had a lifter or flipper style like a Stinger or like a Bronco?
So that's going to be one of those fights that comes really heavily down to who's driving better in that match. I really like how the new Bombshell drives. I'm really happy with it. It drives very similar to the 1-pound robot I built called Algos. So the fact that I've already got essentially years of experience driving something that feels the same is going to help. But it's a little hard to see in the picture, but we do have some rollers built into those little standoffs on top of the robot that at least help us maneuver if we do get inverted.
Okay, fantastic. You've thought of everything. It's great. I cannot wait to see this robot. So the final question, I think, before we wrap this up, me and Charlie had this discussion before. We reckon that a lot of robots were going to be coming into Season 3 with Tombstone in mind. So their robot was built and improved to be able to face off against Tombstone, the Season 2 champion. How much of Bombshell's redesign was based on this as a structure?
Less than you might think. The core of this design was, we're building a two-wheel drive vertical spinner, and what do we think is the most versatile setup for that core concept? So we've got a very high-powered drivetrain, a weight balance that I think is pretty solid. It's about 70% of the weight's on the rear tires, even though in the picture it really doesn't look like that. The way the whole shape of the robot is, we've only got about 30% of the weight on the front, 70 at the rear. And then the nice wide sloped armor should be able to deal with a lot of different types of weapons without really putting a lot of energy into our chassis.
Fantastic. And hopefully we'll be seeing a Bombshell toy eventually. You know, that's what you said in our first video. You said to us you aimed not to win, but to get a toy. So hopefully, you know, with Hexbug now announcing the Bronco and the Hypershock RC toys, hopefully we can see a Bombshell Season 3 in the future. But I think that's where we're going to wrap things up, Mike. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we finish?
Thanks for having me back. Look forward to talking to you again sometime pretty soon. And I'm really excited to be filming the next season of BattleBots. It's going to be a great time. Huge shout out to our sponsor, SendGrid. They made this whole build possible. They've been fantastic to work with in the past. They were our sponsor in Season 2. They are our only sponsor again for this coming season of BattleBots on the Discovery Channel.
Big ups to those. Thank you very much. You'll have our support the whole way. We are both all for Team Bombshell and Team Danby. We promise, Craig. Please don't kill us with Predator. We're lovely people, I promise. Thank you very much, Mike, for being here, for joining us, and for unveiling such fantastic news. There you go, subreddit. You can shove Bombshell onto your confirm now with a link and everything. We look forward to seeing that. But thank you very much, Mike. Again, best of luck to you on BattleBots. We have Good Robottal's full support on that. But that's all for now, guys. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll be making more videos very soon. We've got a video coming up with Team Rapid, Letty and Andy, two very lovely people indeed. And we've also got Robottal Report coming up and loads of other stuff. So stay tuned for more. But if you haven't already, please give us a subscribe, give this video a like, and wish Mike all the best. We'll leave his links down in the description. Thank you very much, guys. And until next time, I've been Harry.
And I've been Charlie, a Chaos Core devotee.
And you've been watching a very special Good Robottal episode. Thank you very much, and goodbye.